tossed aside like a pile of leaves. I gotta find some better weeds. 4 or 5 meter run around the bend when the government may just surround you again. If dying young won't change your mind, baby, 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 right on. Out of control, but you're playing a role. You think you can go.
When's it going to end?
When's what gonna end?
You know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Recently, actually not recently, a long, long time ago, the people behind Deadpool 2 announced that Zazie Beetz, the actress probably best known for Atlanta, would be playing the character of Domino. And we knew that this was, a departure.
Sure.
Because she's black.
Right.
I don't know how to tell you this. I'm sorry. You're black. And Domino from the comics is, I don't know what she is. I know that for whatever reason, she has completely white, skin, bleached white skin.
Right.
I don't think that's supposed to be a commentary by character creator Rob Liefeld. But anyway, there you go. So when they cast Zazie Beetz, people were like, okay, all right, interesting.
Sure.
We'll see how that works. Some people wondered if they would take Domino's trademark black circle around her eye. She's got a Snoopy eye.
Sure.
And maybe make that light instead of dark. Ha ha ha! Never happened. It's happened. So an image has come out of Zazie Beetz as Domino, a promotional image for the new Deadpool 2 movie. Haven't said Daredevil yet, and she's laying on it's not a rug. It's aping Ryan Reynolds' similar image where he's laying on a bearskin rug.
Okay. And
her look is movie superhero look. It's all black leather. She's got the full out, Foxy Cleopatra hair type thing.
Sure.
And she does. She has a whitish, patch or sort of spot, over the one eye.
Sure.
So that's what they went with.
Okay.
The internet is losing its collective shit.
Of course they are.
Yes. Well, the loudest part of the internet. The tales from the crib. What did we call it before? Crying from the comics crib.
Yeah.
The loudest part of the hospital is the nursery. And there are a lot of man babies that are real upset about this, having seen or heard nothing else from this production.
Wow.
Although I will say, I think the biggest complaint, you can be clever and still be wrong. The biggest complaint is that she looks a little like Barf from Spaceballs.
Oh.
I mean, just with the eye. And
oh, that makes sense.
I can kind of see that.
I can.
I got to give you
that
one.
too.
But when is it going to stop? When are we going to be done with this? Because that's the best of the worst things that they've said.
Right.
They've said some horrible, terrible things. Not to be repeated here. And my thing is when are we going to be done? Is this proof? Is this proof that all of our other problems are fixed? Friend of the show, my friend, might be going a little far to call him a friend, but anyway, Pat Tomlinson, who we talked to several times at CONvergence and interviewed on the last show, made a point that I've been making for years, and I don't think I can prove it because I'm not sure I've ever made it on this show, but it was the idea that no matter how much everybody complains, the world is better than it's ever been.
Right.
And it's possible that we can only get upset about this stuff because so much other things are going right. Now, since November of last year, I'm not sure how... Maybe we can still fluctuate a little bit. Maybe we can get a rainy day in paradise every once in a while. But maybe these are just the last gasps, the last screams of evil as it's being held under the water until the bubbles stop. And he and I sort of both agree on that. But you see those rain clouds gather sometimes, and it's like, what? What's the... I don't get it.
I don't get it either.
These men. Men. Am I right?
Yeah.
Am I right, ladies? My dad's a man, so I can say that. There's this... so you know what the whole red pill thing is, right? It's this whole...
Refresh my memory.
So the whole MRA community, like the men's rights activist community, has this concept of the red pill, which... haven't looked into it because don't want to feel gross all the time, but I'm basically assuming that it's like the Matrix. You're taking the red pill, you're seeing the world how it really is.
Okay.
It's not the simulation, the cuck making simulation that females have pulled over your eyes, man. Wake up.
Oh boy.
And so that now you know that. Now I can tell this really quick anecdote. So I'm on Reddit. First, already this is a horror story, right? And there's a button. I don't really Reddit a lot. Maybe I should. Maybe we should develop a fan base for this show at some point in the next 6 years. But I like to go on Reddit and hit the random button.
Sure.
Because it's so big, and it can take you anywhere, and every page gives you a theme. So you land on a page and you go, animal husbandry. Okay. Let's see what 10 or 12 people who are really excited about cheeses have to say, or whatever it is.
Sure.
And so I clicked through to this one group, and it was called MRP, and I'm like, what's that? That's weird. And it was like just story after story of men who needed help. They were having trouble in their relationships. They were reaching out to other people in this group, and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with this. My girlfriend, my wife, she did this. I'm at the end of my wits. I don't know what to do. It's red pill. It's married red pill.
Oh my gosh.
So a bunch of alphas, a bunch of MRAs are going to each other going, I don't know what to do with this woman in my life. None of what they're talking about makes sense. Their own thing isn't a thing.
That's
they
crazy.
Sit there and go, we got to show these women who's boss. And then they huddle in this little corner in this little cave in the internet, and they're like, this chick scares the out of me, man. I don't know what I'm doing. I just, ugh.
Oh my goodness.
Please start the show with something fun so we actually finish the show.
I'm reading Atonement. That's not fun.
Okay, hold on. I got to subscribe to MRP real quick.
Oh, stop.
Guys, I don't know. She likes Ian McEwan books. I don't know what to do. Well, maybe if we just keep going, it'll all smooth itself out. And those will just be the dark clouds. It is the Just Enough Trope podcast. I'm your host, Caliban, joined as always by my co-host.
Hi, I'm Mikan Hana.
Boy, have we got a nice little show for you today. We have 3 more interviews from CONvergence, but we really want you to hear and love these interviews. And they are, I'd say they're solid. I wouldn't say they're substantial. We talked to 3 different people for a while, so we're going to shut up real fast here so we can get right to that, and you can hear some great interviews. We talked to Seanan McGuire, who is a fantastic author, guest of honor at the Con. This is, of course, CONvergence 2017 I'm talking about. We talked about her work, talked about her process. We talked about Neil Gaiman a little bit.
Yeah, we did.
And I hope he doesn't listen to this. To tease for the future. We also talked to Cam Banks, who is a role-playing game designer. He is local. He's Twin Cities guy.
Yeah.
Although not originally. We talk about that in the interview. And he works nominally works for Atlas Games, but he's also in business for himself.
Sure.
And we had a lot of interesting discussions with him about some of the work that he's done and about role-playing games in general. And we talked to our perennial annual... What's a perennial? What kind of flower is that? That comes.
Perennial is yearly.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
like just once a season.
Yes.
Hold on, I gotta go to r/botany. When did I said? When did I said that was 40 when I was going to learn plants?
Yes.
Okay, I got to start learning plants.
Yes.
Every year we talk to Melissa F Olson, and we did again this year.
Yes.
And we talked about movies and films. And is there a connecting thread through all these interviewees?
They're all nerdy.
A little bit. They all are nerdy, but they're all sort of related in some way to fantasy, to monsters,
Yes.
to that sort of thing we've been talking about future and Blue Monday and shooties and guns.
That's
and
true.
that whole side of it, and we're flipping over to the other side now. We're making the black eye patch white, and we're going to see how the other half lives. It's getting weird. And we want to talk about fantasy and about those sort of elements, and that's who we're talking to today. And then, of course, to wrap all that up, it is Craft Disservices time again on the show.
Yes.
We've got a very special film that I'm sure you've heard of called Beastmaster.
That's right.
Or The Beastmaster,
Yeah.
if you're nasty. Starring Mark Singer, and oh boy, we got a lot of good stuff to say about that. So we should probably get to that as soon as we can. How you doing, real quick?
I'm doing well, Cal.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing well.
No, don't.
No?
Okay. I appreciate the yes and. What do you? So you're reading Atonement.
I am reading Atonement.
That means that you're finished with all of Melissa's books, right?
That is correct, actually.
Good.
I just finished reading Blood Gamble, which is Melissa F. Olson's newest book.
Okay.
So, 2 thumbs up.
Right. Well, you can talk about it. Save it for the segment.
Oh, all right.
Okay. We don't know how you feel about it. It's a gamble.
That's
We'll see if you are positive or negative on Blood Gamble.
all right. Sounds good.
let's talk about the news. Okay, well, anyway, horrible stories about Deadpool 2 aside, and just for me personally, I think she'll be great, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you've got any investment in this character. Name 3 good Domino stories.
I have no
You can't.
idea.
You can't, you sniveling man babies. You can't. She's not a character anybody has any investment in. If anything, the creators just went and got a hot, in all senses of the word, talented up-and-coming actress.
Yes.
Who nailed the audition and went, all right, let's do it. And we want to add some diversity because you hate that too,
Right.
you little crib dwellers. And, you know, what the hell? Let's play with it. We are kind of acknowledging, because this is a series that appreciates meta commentary,
Right.
that she is the quote-unquote wrong color. So let's just go the whole way with it. Who cares?
Right.
They're even kind of doing a thing.
They are.
They're anticipating you going, hey. See, you can't hey. They already hayed for you. So forget all that. Let's just really quick shoot a couple of these things down here. There's a couple things we've had on hold because we've had to do what we're doing now, which is get to stuff. So I wanted to say real quick that AMC is developing a sci-fi show with the writers behind Arrival.
Okay.
The movie Arrival. Not The Arrival, just Arrival.
Just Arrival.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you remember that movie?
Yes, I do. I remember that movie very well. We just saw it recently. I think that could be a really good thing. I liked Arrival. I thought it was imaginative and, it was a pretty good sci-fi film. So I think it could be an interesting series.
Okay.
What?
Me too. No, I it's the best movie I didn't like in the last 5 years that I've seen.
Look,
it was fine.
It's not the best movie
here's
ever,
why I think.
but...
Here's why I didn't think it was fantastic. Because it's all been done before. You go, no, it's gonna. Are you kidding me? A lady is gonna do this, and she's gonna go through time or whatever. It's like, I've seen that on our Limits episode. Like it's all been done. Acting wise, Amy Adams amazing, but we've seen her give that performance before, more or less. Denis Villeneuve and I think Roger Deakins. Just anyway, the visual filmic side was amazing, and they've done that already. And Goo Goo Gaga, I don't know what else. Like the theme was great. Yeah, it was a really subversive way to get some really chunky sci-fi stuff into a quote unquote like blockbuster that you're going to come out and see an Amy Adams movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it succeeds, but I thought it was like a real solid B, like B+ if you turn it in early.
Okay.
And everybody's just losing their shit over it.
People really like it.
Well, and it's
People
fine.
do.
I'm just saying, yeah, it's fine. I'd really love to see, especially with like Blade Runner coming up, I'd love to see a Villeneuve movie that has like a real story to it and isn't all about mood. And then this movie has a story, but the story itself kind of folds in upon itself.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like, it's really only like half a story. It's like we go through the story up to one point, and then we turn the story over and we go back to the beginning, but it feels like going to the end because it's going the other way.
Right.
It's kind of like, he must have loved that. Less story. Ooh, c'est bon. So forget about that. Here's something that only pertains to me. The Long Dark is getting a film adaptation. What's that? I'll tell you. It is a video game. It is a first-person survival game.
Okay.
That is recently released. Now, when I say released, it's been in development for 5 years. And the way they do development now, especially with games that are digitally distributed, try it again, digitally distributed on platforms like Steam, is they release an early build. They allow you to essentially buy the game, usually at a lower price point than what it's worth when it's released. And then you kind of act as the beta testers.
Sure.
I remember when I was a kid and I was growing up and, I was like, I sure love video games. And my mom and dad are like, you should work with video games. And then I realized it was going to take me 6 years of computer engineering or something like that to learn to program these games. I thought I could test them. That's probably not even a job anymore.
You don't think so?
Because now I pay them to be able to test their games. So this is a long way of saying that I've been playing this game for almost 5 years, and it's just released. And what is neat about it is that it is a survival scenario. There are parts of it that are, there's a heightened reality to it. But you are just set off in the woods, and you must survive these sub-zero conditions. So you're in a wintry area. You go into like a abandoned cabin. There might be some matches or something in there. There's wildlife around. You've got to go out and cut wood, and it's the kind of thing where it's like, oh, you mean like being a Minnesotan? Yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
I'm very good at the game. And then they always promised that before the release, it was all open-ended. There was no story, and they promised that there would be a story in it, which has been revealed now that it's been released.
Okay.
And what I always liked about the game is that you kind of made your own story.
Sure.
There are hints that something has happened. There's a reason that you're all alone, but maybe you'll find something out. And it just becomes, the story becomes, I've been doing this for 50 days.
Right.
Now they've released a story. It's crap.
You're kidding.
It sucks.
No.
It's really bad.
No.
It's like, no. Now it turns out that you're a pilot who crashed and you were ferrying your ex-wife on this special mission, so it's tense between you, and you crash and she's somewhere else. You have to find her. Then you meet an old woman who lives in a cabin and she's blind. And Jesus, you guys, come on.
Really?
This is like bargain. This is like the Boggle storytelling, like roll the dice. Oh, this is okay. We got a blind old woman, ex-wife. Come on. Yeah, it's not very good. So
that's disappointing.
I would love to see somebody like Roger Deakins or Denis Villeneuve translate the sort of haunting, aching emptiness of The Long Dark's visuals to the screen. Somebody else better be writing that thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow. That's disappointing.
That's okay. See, the game has the story version, but you can just not play that and just play the open-ended sandbox
make
mode.
your own story.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm doing. Suck on that. What about this? Hellboy, Rise of the Blood Queen. We're in trouble.
Oh, boy.
That sounds real bad.
It does sound bad.
I gotta say, that sounds really bad. Is moving right along. They have cast, of course, David Harbour from Stranger Things as the Hellboy.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's being directed by Neil Marshall, who directed The Descent and some other stuff. And it looks like Ian McShane is joining the production.
Oh, wow. Is he going to be the bad guy?
Are there any dragons in this one? I'll bring the tits. No, he's playing Professor Broom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's playing Hellboy's, what's it? His
mentor.
Yeah.
Father figure.
Yeah.
Put your tiny hand in mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. John Hurt played him previously. Of course, he's not available this time around. Even though it's called, stupidly, Rise of the Blood Queen, it is reportedly going to be based on Seed of Destruction, the first trade paperback.
Okay.
Which...
we read.
For...
Comic Book Club.
Bam. And you...
liked it.
And finished my...
sentences.
you,
Sandwiches.
You blew it. Yeah. Do you think that'd be a good movie?
I think it could be a good movie if they spice it up a little bit.
Ooh, spicy blood.
Yeah.
Maybe they could gamble. Yeah, I agree. And I think the spice is already going to be there because, of course, everybody's got to have a cinematic universe. I don't know how much creator and aspiring movie producer Mike Mignola will be involved in this, but he's already crowing about the Hellboy cinematic universe.
Okay.
So... yeah, I mean, I think if you take the story from the 4 issues and then you do the thing that they do now where a third of the film is them setting up the next couple films.
Yeah.
Not saying I like that, but sure, that's 2 hours.
Sure.
They could do that.
Yeah.
And that's all your thoughts.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, that's all my thoughts.
Okay. All right.
Hopefully they'll give what's her name a little bit more to do than she had to do in that particular comic.
That they did in the Del Toro films.
Okay.
Because but it was just a whole romantic subplot, so she became this object for now Hellboy's in love with her.
Right.
Which that was never in the comic.
Right.
Not once.
Well,
that well speaks volume. That's a deep well.
Yeah,
that's a deep well.
It is a deep well.
Well, here's my deep well. It looks like Akiva Goldsman is done with the Transformers, and Alex Kurtzman is done with the Dark Universe.
Okay.
Now, if you'll remember, first of all, these two super buds, right? Super buds. They've worked on all kinds of shitty movies together.
Oh yeah.
Super buds sounds like a Harold and Kumar
Yeah, it
spinoff,
does.
doesn't it? Anyway, Akiva Goldsman has been sort of the showrunner for like the Transformers franchise. Remember a couple of years
Sure.
back they announced that they were assembling like a transporters. Jason Statham is Optimus Prime. A Transformers writers room where it's like, guys, just write some. No. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to assemble this sort of Avengers team of writers to come up with good plots to keep the Transformers thing going.
Right.
Which led to The Last Night, which has been the lowest grossing, like lowest rated, lowest amount of people not throwing up in the theater Transformers movie so far.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's done. That's dead. Like it's coming apart. Akiva Goldsman very curtly said, "No, I am not involved in that anymore." So he's out.
Okay.
That lasted one film.
All right.
Flip over to Dark Universe, where Alex Kurtzman, longtime ruiner of films with his typewriter, ruined The Mummy with his directing.
Right.
And he looks like he's out. Now, he's much more diplomatic. He seems like a guy with a lot of pressure on his shoulders, but he's very diplomatic in all of his interviews. And very apologetic. Kind of like how Damon Lindelof got the second half of his career.
Okay.
Remember when he was just like, do the gum chewing noise so I can talk? Well, nobody will know how it happened. Drink a glass of water, too. Yeah, you'll see. You'll see what happens. Maybe Jack has sex with the dog. Maybe not. Who knows? Right?
Yeah.
And now that we all know he's a fraud, and he's seen him working the wheels behind the curtain. Now in all his interviews, he's like, "Well, I hope you guys like that. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure coming up with it's even my worst orgasm was right in the money. I don't know why it turned into Woody Allen at the end, but he just seems like now he's tap dancing. Hey,
Because he's sweaty. That's why.
Well, that's been Alex Kurtzman this whole way, and ever since The Mummy's failed, it looks like he is out of the Dark Universe franchise too.
Okay.
So, what does this feel like?
This
Good
feels
news?
like it's probably good news.
No, it's terrible news.
Yeah.
Because Goldsman is an executive producer as well as Kurtzman on Star Trek Discovery. Now, they've got nothing to do. They're just puttering around the house.
Oh boy.
We got to take up a hobby. We'll
You're
never
right.
get them out of the shop now.
You're right.
They are going to screw Star Trek into the ground.
That's not good.
We got to get them. It doesn't matter what color the parachute is. We got to get them into anything.
We need a different
Fast and
project.
Furious. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Reboot Sequest. Something. Because we're not going to be able to get them out of the house now.
Oh boy.
Bad news.
That is bad news.
So I wanted to share that. Here's some other bad news. Looks like Clint Howard will be appearing in Untitled Han Solo movie.
Oh boy.
You can be right and be very unhappy.
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew that this was in trouble. Then they bring Ron Howard in. It's like, guys, that's not a good sign.
No.
Han Solo is not Cinderella Man,
No.
for example. And then he's like, I'm going to put my brother in because that's what I do in all my movies. Ron, take this seriously.
Yeah, seriously.
You need to take this seriously. That's what Lord Miller learned. They weren't taking it seriously. So this seems real bad.
Yeah, it's why. I mean, I thought we were in late stages of filming anyways, so why put him in?
Exactly. They had like
What's the
3 or
point?
4 weeks left to film, so it's like now he's adding a scene with Clint Howard in it.
That seems pointless besides being your in-joke, you know?
Yeah, for a guy replacing two guys who were fired because they got jokes. Jokes. Yeah, bringing a living joke onto the film. No offense to the illustrious Mr. Clint Howard,
Right. Exactly.
but maybe some.
No, none offense intended.
Maybe some.
But
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, not great. One last story I want to talk real quick about the Dark Tower. Speaking of where fantasy meets urban fantasy meets some sci-fi elements.
Sure.
The Dark Tower meets meta textual storytelling. Movie's not doing good.
no?
Speaking of Akiva Goldsman, no, it's not doing good. It's made about, I think maybe 8 or 9 million at this point. We're recording this
Okay.
late on Saturday. So that's bad.
That is bad.
Yeah. And again, this is I know this seems like we meant to do this, but it's just the tower. That everything is connected through the tower. A movie that Ron Howard helped get started and then abandoned to do something bad.
Something
probably.
else.
Yeah. It's not doing well. But unlike giving up like an Akiva Goldsman, it looks like the machine, the wheels that have been set in motion, the giant turtle with a radar dish in its head, or is that a bear? It's been a while since I've read Dark Tower, is still lumbers on. The TV series is continuing.
Okay.
Sony has got to make this work because Mars needs moms, Sony needs hits.
Do you think that there'll be any more movies after this, or do you think that...
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
Okay.
They'll just reboot it in a couple of years.
Okay.
And when you've got the parachute of it's all a multiverse, so who cares?
That's true.
Right? Like Idris Elba's the gunslinger on one thing. Then the next one you can flip it around. You can make him the Man in Black, and then you make McConaughey the gunslinger. You know?
Sure. They like switching around roles.
Right? Yeah, it's like Johnny Lee Miller and Benedict Cumberbatch and Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly.
So instead, it's like kill with your heart. It'd be a lot cooler if you did. No. Don't do that. But I wanted to mention about the TV series is that Glenn Mazzara will be the showrunner. Glenn Mazzara is one of the showrunners for The Walking Dead.
Okay.
So I think the TV series has a good chance at being a success.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. Because he knows what he's doing. Even though, I'm not saying it's going to be good. Like The Walking Dead hasn't been good in forever, so nobody's really, nobody's holding any illusions about that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, this is something that could certainly survive as an adventure series or as an anthology series on TV for sure.
Yeah. I think it's something that probably would lend itself maybe even better to TV than to film. Because there's so much of it.
Yeah, and it. Look, I mean, no offense to the. Actually, I don't care if I offend. The Akiva Goldsman produced film, directed by a guy whose name I don't know. The movie's like 90 minutes long.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying make a bunch of long movies, but you were never going to fit 7.5, 8 books into one
7
thing. You were never going to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the first thing they did, because I think they were having trouble breaking it before Ron Howard left, and then he left, and then they were like, somebody came in and went, no, this is just a movie. We've got the cowboy guy. We got the stringer bell. Let's just do this.
Right.
Okay? Let's just make this movie. And they did, and it's bad. So nobody should be surprised. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this is something that needs time to breathe. Also, it's something that goes from being a gothic horror thing to a like time travel thing to like telling riddles to an insane monorail thing.
Yeah.
To the aforementioned Shardik, to suddenly Anthony Hopkins' character from Hearts and Atlantis is showing up. Like the whole thing is just
There's
a total
lots of genres.
Yeah, a cluster F. So yeah, right, exactly.
So, yeah, why not let it breathe a little bit on TV?
Is it...
let it breathe.
Oh, is it Let It Breathe?
Yeah.
Some wine company going to do a commercial and license that?
I like that idea.
Yeah, Let It Breathe. You got that. What are some other songs from Frozen?
Do you want to build a snowman?
Do you want to build a Riesling?
I must contain my anger, or I won't control my power. But God's how long I've...
All right, well, let's knock down the first of our great interviews from CONvergence 2017. First up, we are talking to author Seanan McGuire. You might also know her as Mira Grant, author of the Feed series, which we talk about in this interview. We also talk about her other work. We talk about the roots of fantasy, and we talk about American Gods. And here it is. How would you define space opera? I guess we should start
My favorite
there.
space opera is probably the Liaden books by Sharon Lee and Steve Miller.
I'm not familiar.
They are fantastic. They're basically comedies of manners in space.
Oh, that
and
sounds
I
good.
would define a space opera as something that's sort of on the science is more negotiable side of
Okay.
science fiction.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to really get into the physics. The Martian is not space opera.
No,
The
no.
Martian is hard science fiction in space.
Yeah.
Star Wars is not hard science fiction.
Right.
It's very kind of loose and mythological.
Yeah, fantastical
in space.
elements.
Exactly. So I
Right,
think the
yeah.
fantastical elements are key to having a proper space opera.
Sure. A lot of times, hard sci-fi movies are space horror movies. I know you like horror movies.
I do.
Do you have a favorite space horror movie?
Oh, I really like the original Alien.
Yeah.
I know that's predictable, but
Yeah.
I think that it kind of set the tone for almost everything else that has
Oh,
come.
everybody's trying to copy
Everybody's
it.
trying to copy
right.
Alien. And for all that I know, it is not a good version of the book on which it is ostensibly based.
Okay.
I love Starship Troopers.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. Which is, I mean, would you consider that horror or maybe more
I would
action?
consider that a bug hunt.
Yeah, it's,
so
it's literally
it's a
bug
creature
hunt.
feature.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite genres. I'm not a huge horror fan, but I love the we're trapped in a spaceship, the haunted house in space type thing, and then we get picked off one by one and that sort of thing. Like Event Horizon is a great one for
Yep.
that.
Alien Cargo is a great one. It was one of the sci-fi originals before they started being really campy Monster of the Week movies, and it's about two people who have survived on a cargo ship that is infected with an alien
And
virus.
they wake up from like
They
hypersleep
do,
or something.
yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Right. You wrote the Newsflesh trilogy.
I did.
Which is, I'm jealous. It's such a great idea, and I wish I'd come up with it.
Thank you.
When you have a title like Feed, is it more of thinking of all these elements that you want to put into it and then going, what a great title? Or did you maybe come up with the title
My
first?
editor changed the title because
really?
my
Okay.
original title for the first book was, in fact, Newsflesh.
Sure.
And his point was that the pun really didn't carry the series that well.
Okay.
But as a series title, it worked.
Well, thank you, editor, because that
Yeah,
one is a
no,
really
he was
great
wonderful.
title. Yeah. Also, I want to talk about you writing in urban fantasy and sort of the world of fairy.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think the world of fairy has persisted so much in fiction? It's in genre fiction. It's huge now.
Well, it's
This
having
whole-
a resurgence right now,
Sure.
but it's continued because it is part of a large folklore, and colonialism happened, so British folklore got carried
Yes,
all over the world.
that is true.
And anytime you tell someone a story, they will change the details of that story, the things they think are important, the things they focus on.
Yeah.
Those will vary from person to person.
Sure.
Ask any 10 people to describe Alien to you, and
yeah.
you'll get 10 different descriptions. So with the folklore that traveled with the British as they conquered everything that they came across,
Right.
it got modified, it got shifted, and that made for a much wider base
Yeah.
to play with now.
I guess I have to ask if you're watching American Gods.
I am not.
You're not. Have
I
you
am
read
not.
the book?
Yes, I have.
Okay. All right. Do you plan on watching it?
I do not.
Interesting. Why?
I did not like the book.
Oh,
Yay, what a
Say
good
no
thing
more.
to say on a podcast. Please don't come to my house with eggs.
I don't think Neil even lives around here anymore, so it doesn't matter. That's interesting. What didn't you like about it specifically? Because it seems like that theme that you just talked about runs all through it.
I did not feel that the folklore was terribly rigorous.
Okay.
It's been a while, and this actually makes me super uncomfortable because
Oh.
people are really defensive of American Gods, and I don't want them being mad at me
Oh,
for
nobody's
not
gonna be
liking
mad,
it.
no.
Oh, you say no one's going to be mad at me, but
I personally like Sandman more than American Gods.
That's good.
myself,
Me too.
so.
I actually enjoyed Nancy Boys, the sequel, more
Yeah.
than American Gods as well. I wanted to ask you, now that you've won a Nebula
Thank
for
you.
Every Other Doorway, is life completely different now?
I have a nebula now, which is pretty cool.
You're just driven
it's-
around everywhere?
Well,
and-
no, that's not true. But it's a big block of lucite that I could totally use to kill a man who asked
Okay.
me awkward questions about a book I didn't enjoy.
Okay.
So, yeah,
All
as
right.
a completely non-specific example, it.
Doesn't look like anything to me.
Yeah, no. Awards don't really change your life. I mean, it's nice to be nominated. It's nicer to win.
Yeah.
It is an honor to be nominated, but there's something magical about winning. That's not going to make everything different.
Sure.
That's not going to rewrite stuff. Now, having a TV show made, that does make everything different
Sure.
because even a show that is not very good and canceled after 5 episodes reaches so many more
Yeah, it's-
people
yeah.
than the average book does.
Right.
There's a big difference between readership of a best-selling novel and viewership of a poorly performing TV show.
Yeah, right. So many more people will be exposed to American Gods now, unfortunately. Last question. If somebody wants to get into, if they're interested in filk, where do they go?
Well, if you go to ovff.org, which is the Ohio Valley Filk Festival.org, OVFF is the largest filk convention in the world.
Okay.
We have nowhere near as many people as you get at CONvergence, but we get, between 400 and 500 people every year. And for Filk, that's a big deal.
Sure.
And they run the Pegasus Awards, which are sort of the nebulas of Filk. The nice thing there is that all of the previous year's ballots are up online, and you can listen to samples of all of the previous year's nominees and winners. So you can listen to a little bit of a whole bunch of stuff, see if there's something that you like the sound of, and that helps you find who you want to listen to.
Sure,
Filk is also interactive. We want you to be there. We want you to participate. So look and see if you find things on the website that you like the sound of, you want to hear more, look and see if there's a Filk convention near you or if there's a Filk society near you. No one's going to yell at you for showing up and sitting and listening, but no one's going to yell at you for showing up with a guitar either.
Sure, right. And the URL once again?
OVFF, as in Ohio Valley Filk Festival.org.
Okay, sounds great. Check that out. Thanks so much for talking with us
Thanks
today.
for having me.
Not a fan of American Gods.
No, but I can understand why. It's not necessarily my favorite of Neil Gaiman's works either.
Yeah, we just used the example of something that it makes a better TV show than a movie.
I think so.
American Gods makes a better TV show than a book.
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a novel. It's just a bunch of stuff
No.
that happens. Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the points. I would encourage her, though, to put her prejudice aside and to watch the show. Because
Yes.
it's a pretty good Brian Fuller show.
It is a good show.
But yeah, that's... she can do whatever she wants. I'm glad that we got to talk about Feed a little bit because that's a series that I really admire, and it's weird to write under. I guess a lot of authors do it. The aforementioned Stephen King,
Sure.
wrote under pen names, and so. But it's just got to be weird to go. Yep, that's who I am. It's a different name. For instance, she's going to be in a new. It might not come out already. I should know because. A acquaintance of mine, John Jackson Miller, is on it, but it's Star Wars Canto Bight. It's like a collection of Star Wars stories, a new book that's being published that she's in as Mira Grant.
Okay.
So specifically, that's like, this is my identity for these types of stories.
Right.
And I'm like somebody else for something else.
Right.
Could you fraction
I
your
think it would be confusing.
output in your yeah, as long as the check says legal name,
Right.
name on bank account,
Right.
no problem. Yeah.
Exactly. Keep cashing it.
But having to sort of fractionate your output to go, all right, look, you don't like, fantasy stories or fairy stories? Fine. Oh, who's this? Oh, zombie. I got to get that.
Right.
Sucker. It's the same. I'm the same author. I gotcha. I gotcha right there. Yeah. So, that's, I guess you have to do that sometime.
I guess so. I mean, she's not the only person we talked to who has a pen name.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we're grateful that we got to talk to her. It was a lot of fun. I want to point people to her Patreon if people want to check that out. She does a thing where she, like a lot of authors, produces for patrons.
Sure.
And she's been doing a poetry project recently, and she's written in the past, like, short stories. So, we get this much, and then I produce, here's a new story, that sort of thing.
Sure.
You can check that out at Patreon / and this is how her name is spelled, SeaNANMCGUIRE. So check her out there.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, speaking of having other identities, when you play role-playing games, you become someone else. This sounds like an 80s PSA for drugs. When you play role-playing games, imagine Keith David. When you play role-playing games, you become someone else. Don't become someone else. Just some kid with a bucket on his head and a cardboard sword.
Oh, my gosh.
And all the other kids in, like, their cool eyes-odd popped collars and are like, oh, that guy. We're talking about role-playing games. We're talking about our interview with Cam Banks, who was a lovely individual Or not. If he doesn't want to be lovely, he can be fearsome. That's fine. He's the game master as far as that goes. And we talked to him about some of his work, some of the things that he's working on, and about Atlas Games and role-playing games in general. Here's the talk. Great panel.
Thank you.
Even though it is the problems with D&D, I'm sure that you are a lover of D&D or player of D&D.
Yes, I ran D&D recently, Curse of Strahd, 5th edition.
We actually just wrapped up a Curse of Strahd campaign too. How do you think the new Ravenloft compares to the old editions of Ravenloft?
I can tell that Chris Perkins loves Ravenloft a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that shows very highly in the game. I think the problem that people often have is they want a full-blown conversion sometimes of an old setting when they don't need to.
Yeah.
So I think this thing, because it was set in a specific area, it was in Barovia and so on, it brought in all the things a lot of people liked about Ravenloft in the past and made it work for 5th edition without doing a whole lot of additional rules that were kind of,
Sure.
just over the top.
There was a brutality to the older editions of Ravenloft before as well. I remember any time I used to play Ravenloft 2nd edition or 3rd edition, we would never make it to the end. We would always get wiped out really fast.
Yeah.
And we actually made it to the end for 5e. So do you feel like they've sort of made it easier or sort of softened it up? Do you think players want to walk into like a total wipe these days?
I think they want... This is one of the things I've had a conversation with some of my other designers about D&D in general, is that for a while there was this idea that we shouldn't be sending things that they can't handle at them. And in fact, the whole challenge rating system seems to be set up to say, well, a fair and balanced encounter is this many players versus this one thing.
Sure.
And that's part of the reaction the old school folks often do is like, you should not worry about that. If it's a dragon and your players decide to attack it, that's their problem.
Sure, yeah. You're giving them a way out. I mean, they can sneak away.
But I've always been the kind of DM who does not want to kill my players off. I mean, some people love the total party kill as a thing they can cheer about.
Yeah.
It's not fun for me to have them all die, because I've often created sort of NPCs who interact with them and support them as
Sure.
family or friends or something. And so if you take them out of the story, then that all goes away.
Yeah, yeah. That's something I actually really liked about 4E. I know it has taken a kicking, and probably rightfully so, was the idea of XP budgets, because when I could build an encounter for my players, I could sort of get them to that perfect, really exhausted. We used all of our resources. Maybe one guy went down and came back up, and we feel like we really had like a big fight
Right.
Every time. I need to get my notes here. You were a guest of honor last year.
Yes.
How long have you been coming to CVG?
This is probably my 4th, I think.
Okay.
I was not... Last year was my first time I was here the entire 4 days or 3 days.
Sure.
Or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
And this year, I only was here yesterday and today.
Okay.
But previous years than that, I would show up and maybe be here for a day and then do all the sort of stuff I could in one day.
Okay, cool.
But I do live in the cities, and so it's not hard for me to get out here to do this.
Sure.
It's not terribly difficult.
And you're not I could be wrong, you're not a native Minnesotan.
No. I'm from New Zealand.
Sure. When did you come here?
I've been living in Minnesota for about 7 years.
Okay.
And before that, spent about 3 or 4 years in Wisconsin. And then before that, 10 years in Pennsylvania.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So
and all that time working in role-playing games and writing?
Not all that time. No. A lot of that time. I have been active in designing and publishing games since about 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to that, I was a volunteer for, I did a lot of stuff online with people who would try to do conversions. It was
okay. Huh.
It was Dragonlance conversions that kind of to 3rd edition that started me off on that.
Yeah. What initially drew you to fantasy and role-playing games? I assume from a young age you were into that sort of thing.
Right. Like it wasn't for some people, like they read The Hobbit and so on, and suddenly it becomes a moment of true greatness that they have to.
Right.
For me, it was more the first fantasy series that I ever read was Narnia.
Sure.
Which is not the thing people sometimes admit. But I also liked a lot of at the time, the young adult stuff that came out of British fantasy. So Over Sea Under Stone and the whole Dark as Rising books, for example. Mm-hmm. A lot of that British fantasy was my first introduction to.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think for me, probably Choose Your Own Adventure games was books was the first sort of exposure to like, I could have a choice in this narrative. Yeah. Are those overseas? Do they have those?
Yeah. In fact, Fighting Fantasy was a sort of a role-playing game books that Games Workshop, or at least Ian Livingston and Steve Jackson, they first put out before they created Warhammer.
Okay, sure.
And those were popular. And the Choose Your Own Adventure books that were the ones that were actually called that, they were also around in New Zealand and other parts of the world too.
Okay. When you're putting together a supplement or a source book or something like that, you must have a theme, but are you assembling material you already have, or are you commissioning material from certain artists for this specific book that's about a part of the realm or something like that?
Most of the time what happens is that once you've decided you want to make a game supplement of some kind, you have an outline, and then you will either write most of it yourself, depends on who you're doing it for, or you will hire freelancers to write sections, and then you assign those parts to different people.
Sure.
And there's someone whose job it normally is a kind of a project manager or developer to go through and make that all sort of make sense and assemble it together. And then you've got editors who make the game supplement not suck.
Sure, yeah.
So it's a long process, but it's not, almost never is it something where someone's taken a whole bunch of stuff that previously exists, unless it's like anthology or greatest hits or some other kind of
thing. But nobody's like created a monster. It's like, this is really good, but I don't know what we can do with this. And then it's like, hey, where's that monster? Bring that in. That would work perfectly in this thing.
Maybe once in a while, right? But most of the time that sort of thing is not how it works. I think it's on spec.
Sure. With a world like Dragonlance, with so much pre-existing lore, do you get things sometimes that are like, well, it's not really on brand for Dragonlance, so let's change that or tweak that? Yeah,
quite a lot. I mean, that's also part of the developer's job, is to make sure people are writing something that fits and goes with the general idea of how the setting works. So if you were doing a vampire masquerade kind of sort of book, you wouldn't want someone coming along and saying, no, I'll talk about my paladin fighter with,
right.
It's not important to have that.
Right. How many people usually end up working on like a source book?
That's a good question. It varies.
Yeah.
Like I always make sure that there's, I think these days if you have, someone who's a developer or running the sort of the book, making sure it comes together, an editor or more, several editors sometimes, and a graphic designer, and you have like artists, and you have other writers who come in and contribute. So it can be quite a lot of people.
I loved your comment on the panel about how a player's character sheet is their wish list.
Yeah.
And it's kind of what they want to see in a campaign.
Right. This is not original to me. I read this somewhere.
Oh, you stole that.
Well, I mean, everything good has been stolen. But
sure.
I think good advice can come from all over the place. And one of the things that really I like about that particular approach is that it reinforces the fact that the game master is not some sort of omnipotent god that must be answered and obeyed. I always see the GM as a player who happens to have a different role at the table, and so their job is not to say, here's the world and you will do everything I tell you. It's, what do you will want to play, and then I will make sure the world sort of responds to that in some way.
Sure, yeah. And as somebody who is an editor and does a lot of collaboration, it's kind of a similar process. If you had to take one system to a desert island with you, because I don't want to say what's your favorite system, but if you had one system to play for the rest of your life, like what would it be?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm designing. I work on a system called Cortex, which is the thing that I've done a lot of games for. I would be happy running that for the rest of my life since I'm the one who wrote it.
Sure.
But I didn't write it alone, right? And so a lot of people contribute to over the years. I think that's the thing about systems, is that some of the best ones are ones you haven't done, that you haven't made. I like the system that is used for Call of Cthulhu and RuneQuest and the basic role-playing, but I haven't played that a lot in the recent years. So it's weird. Like, some of my favorite ones are not ones I play all the time.
Yeah, really. What do you think about the new digital tools and just digital venues for RPGs?
I think they're great. I think it's a really, really good movement forward. I think having things like Roll20 and virtual games where you can play over Skype or Google Hangouts, those are all amazing.
I feel like there's been a reluctance, or maybe not, but it seems like companies like Wizards of the Coast have been slow to adopt those tools and to get them out there.
Yeah.
Do you think that there is a fear in the industry of things going digital and moving away from pen and paper?
I just don't think the people who are in charge of certain design and these companies, we're the ones who are the best people to do that, right? And so often you'll have that a space, a void appears, if a need that people want, and someone else steps up to do it.
Yeah.
So it's taken them a while, because I don't think Wizards of the Coast ever sort of set itself up as being a digital company, but they've got people now who do it, so it's fine.
Yeah. Please tell me about Swordbridge and Eidolon and the other things you're working on right now.
Yeah, these are things from my Patreon. I have been working on this as my own IP. I think it's important for people like me eventually to stop working on everyone else's sandboxes and start making their own. Eidolon is an idea that I had come up with years ago, where all the players would be able to sort of channel, like in Final Fantasy, sort of great spirits that they could embody somehow and get powers from, and it kind of morphed into a kind of Greek style superhero fantasy setting, where things like the Chimera and the Hydra and the Gorgon and those sorts of cool classic monsters. There was just one of them, and it was kind of a great elemental spirit of some kind.
Sure.
And you could have a group of people who everyone is channeling the same one if you wanted to. We're all channeling the Gorgon in some shape or form.
Sure.
But the ideal would be that you'd have kind of an Avengers of fantasy Greek mythological superhero people.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And where can people find out about that?
At Patreon. My Patreon is patreon.com/cambanks. Okay. And you can look my Twitter account at Boymonster. I have it pinned in my feed too if people want to follow that. Swordbridge, by the way, Swordbridge is a different campaign setting that I'm working on, which is kind of a Edwardian, Georgian kind of sort of smoky industrial city fantasy setting. But there's a gateway into Fairy, and Fairy, the elf, the sort of the Fey courts, that the gateway kind of very much like a Guillermo del Toro sort of elves are creepy monsters sort of approach.
Right.
But the idea that the gateway to that realm is the Swordbridge from mythology, but it's kind of a euphemism because it's just a big portal.
Right.
But that it opens, and whatever season it is in the world of the sort of the big city by the river, that season is what a court opens up into the world. So if it's all snowy and wintry, that's the winter court, you know. And if it's the middle of summer, it's the summer court.
Okay, that sounds really neat. Anything else coming up for you today at CONvergence?
No, I've got my kid here with me, and we're looking to see what panels and things he wants to play in. I'm done as far as my actual commitment. So
Get out there and have some fun.
Totally good.
All right, well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
It isn't every day that I get to talk to somebody who is a game designer.
Right.
I mean, not like systems. Like, I know a lot of game masters. And there's sort of one of those, bad example, but you know how like a lizard will grow to the size of whatever you keep it in?
Yes.
It's sort of like, or like how Star Wars has this thing where like there's a probe droid, and then maybe there's a giant probe droid, same shape as the little one that Chewbacca shoots. It's like that with game designers. Like, I know people who have created amazing worlds at one table, for 5 people.
Sure.
And then he's doing the exact same thing, only he's doing it on a much
larger scale,
huger scale. Yeah. But also having to manage other people creating things as well. And so you're kind of like an Uber game master, which has got to be really neat if you're a fan of that. I am a fan of it. I played at the point where nobody knew what it was, age-wise. I know it's been around forever. And then I played to the point where, no, this isn't cool at all. And then I played through the point where it's like, oh, it's kind of cool. And then I played to the point where you're too old for this. And I think I've got through the barrier where anybody can tell me what to do anymore.
Sure.
So I can just do whatever I want. I wouldn't put it in my Tinder profile necessarily. But and you're somebody who is relatively new to it.
Yes. So
I guess I just gave my impressions. What were your impressions?
I really enjoy role-playing. I like the role-playing aspect of role-playing.
Yeah.
Where you get to create your own character and really develop it. And
what's your current character? What are you playing most recently?
I am playing a druid. Who is
funny? You don't look Jewish.
Who is a cat person? So I'm a cat
so she's
person.
Got cats?
Yeah. Well, no, she is a cat.
Oh, she is a
person
that is a cat.
Yes.
Okay, like a humanoid cat.
Yes.
Okay.
And
don't druids like live in the swamp and stuff like that? I'd imagine that'd be a cat wouldn't like that very much.
Well, my druid lived in the woods.
Okay, that's probably better.
And she's a moon druid, so she can turn into other animals as well.
Oh wait, so she's a cat that turns in. Now, when she turns into other animals, do they retain cat-like properties? So if you turn into like a rhino, does the rhino have twitchy ears and a long cat tail? or like an orange furry rhino, like tabby color.
I like that actually. I like that visual.
I think I've seen that 80s cartoon. Yeah, and it's only through like the work of people like Cam that you could do this.
Yeah.
And something else that I liked that he talked about at that panel, I think we mentioned this in the interview that we saw before we talked to him, is that he's somebody who the panel was called "Let's Beat Up Dungeons and Dragons" because there's a lot of things wrong with it.
Right.
At the end of the day, and yet at the end of the day, it's like, but I love it though. Like,
right.
I know it's got problems, but I don't care. We can literally change those problems. We can fix things.
Yes, that's part of role playing.
Or we can make them worse, like adding a Greyhawk initiative system, which I never got to ask him about. So, Cam, if you're out there, I want your thoughts about the Greyhawk initiative system. I have a DM I have to convince. But anyway, thanks a lot to Cam for talking with us. He's got a Patreon, too, where he is working on supporting things. Some of his ideas that we talked about, like Swordbridge and Eidolon, are all on there. You can find out more at patreon.com/Cam. That's CAM Banks. So go check that out. What's your cat person's name?
Tabitha.
Okay, that was a gimme, I guess. I guess that makes sense. As far as an alternate ego goes.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire. Got a whole lot of money that's ready to burn.
We spoke again this year with Melissa F. Olson at CONvergence. Here's our talk. Have you seen any good movies lately?
Do
you get out to movies?
Do I get out to movies? I do now. I now can afford a babysitter to go to movies.
Good.
Obviously, loved Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. It came out like the night before my birthday, so it was like an early gift.
Cool.
I like to think that's the only reason they made it, is because they knew that it was my birthday.
Yeah, sure.
And, No, I thought that one was phenomenal. I mostly liked Guardians of the Galaxy too.
Uh-huh.
I felt like there was a little bit of it gets a little dark there in the middle.
Yeah.
And like we have let our kids who are 4 and 8 watch the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie because although there is violence, it's space, like it's alien ray gun violence.
Right.
It's not like we're watching Saving Private Ryan.
Right.
So we watched it. My husband and I went first to see if it would be okay for my older daughter, who's 8, and we're watching it and we're like, yeah, okay, baby Groot dancing, yeah, she'd like this, and we're watching it, and then they start with the space murder.
Yeah, right.
Where they just shoved bad guys out the airlock.
Yeah.
And then there's like, they use them like breadcrumbs.
Yeah, right.
And we're like, okay. And that's where we're not going to let her see this movie.
Okay, maybe in the future someday.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure eventually. Or maybe there'll be like a well-timed bathroom break. But there's also like the bullying of baby Groot. That's rough to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
Although the sequence right after where he like brings them the thumb was
right.
I mean, I had tears. I was crying because I was laughing so hard. I couldn't keep it together. That was fantastic. My phone message now when someone texts me is, "I am Groot."
Oh, okay.
Like the baby version. So, but I also kind of liked The Mummy.
Okay.
The Tom Cruise Mummy.
Yeah.
I said that out loud. Did you see it?
Yeah, we did. I think we talked about it on the show, and I think we both agreed that it was not great, but it's almost like I had trouble hating it. There's people out there who are ready to just kick it across town, and I
honestly,
thought
it's not a great movie.
No,
but it's not a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes either.
Yeah.
Honestly, if it had been any actor but Tom Cruise, I feel like it would have been a very solid film.
Yeah.
I
don't know. Going forward, if they do go forward at this point, I'm really interested to see Tom Cruise play this, we don't know, maybe good, maybe bad mummy guy going forward. We haven't seen anything like that from him since Interview with the Vampire, because he's always the hero guy. I'd like to see him be a darkly anti-hero
Collateral
type guy.
And Magnolia, where he's more ambiguous.
Yeah.
But I think that Tom Cruise just always plays Tom Cruise.
Oh, yeah.
Or you could also say he always plays Ethan Hunt, because they're basically the same situation at this point. And so he's very boring at the beginning of the movie. And then as his sort of moral ambiguity increases, it becomes slightly interesting for him. And then, I was actually talking about this with someone else, and I was, because I've been bemoaning the casting of Tom Cruise, and it occurred to me that, like, on the other hand, if it had been any other actor, would we have liked the character? Because Tom Cruise is America's hero, He's always the good guy, for the most part, statistically. And so you just want to like him, but you also kind of assign him this role of good guy.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if it helped the character's moral flexibility that he is the casting decision. Or maybe it hurt the character's moral flexibility.
Well, if that's true, I wish that they had leaned into, because it seems like he's supposed to be a bad guy. Like, we're supposed to not like him.
He's supposed to be kind of an asshole.
Yeah, or at least, like, roguish. And I think that you could, did you see Passengers?
No, I strenuously objected to the plot line, so I did not go see it.
I did as well. But I think that casting Chris Pratt in that role as a guy who does something really wrong, but can pull it off because he's Chris Pratt, even the script sort of backed away from that. And I think The Mummy did that as well. I don't know, maybe at what point when Tom Cruise was cast, perhaps, but he was supposed to be a much more questionable guy, I think, and instead we got Tom Cruise, and my dick's not this big, it's this big, and just dumb stuff like that.
Right. Well, I will now do a leaping roll away from bullets, just because.
Right.
It seems like the most efficient way to avoid bullets is in a full-body leaping roll.
Yes.
No problem.
And when in doubt, add Jake Johnson as your sidekick, and we're off to the races. So.
You know what threw me more than anything is I know Jake Johnson from New Girl.
Yeah.
And his character in that movie is named Nick. And Tom Cruise's character, on the TV show. On the TV show, Jake Johnson plays Nick.
Sure.
And in the movie, Tom Cruise plays Nick. So Jake Johnson is constantly shouting, Nick. Hey, Nick! Hey, Nick! And I'm like, who are you talking to? Is there a mirror?
Right.
That kept throwing me. But, I gotta say, like, I went in wanting to like it so much more than most people because it's urban fantasy.
Right.
It's a modern day urban fantasy. Yeah. And I loved so much of the setup with Russell Crowe as Henry Jekyll.
Yeah.
Like, and when he briefly turns into Mr. Hyde, like, that is just candy to an urban fantasy author. Especially because it was a big bait and switch. Like, he starts out as the, like, dry narrator voice.
Right.
And you're like, wow, Russell Crowe got the short end of the casting stick on this one.
You're right.
And it seems like his only job is to deliver exposition in his most grave of all voices. And you kind of just write him off almost as this, like, nerdy professor. And then suddenly he switches. And the thing that I like is the amount of detail that goes into, like, the set design of his office.
Yeah.
Because his whole office is prepared for him to turn into Mr. Hyde. Mm-hmm. He's got the largest red button in the history of plastic.
Right.
Just sitting right there on his desk. And somebody hits it, and the walls close, and you can see how they've, like, sort of adapted to him possibly turning into a monster at any point.
Yeah.
So
and there's a big, like, bed with straps on it. It's like, what's that for?
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's for him. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, I thought it was so interesting. And, like, when Tom Cruise walks through the lab and he sees all the little, like, swamp thing arm, hand and stuff.
Right.
Like, I don't know that I would purchase the DVD, but if it's on HBO, I'm going to, like, DVR back and forth and just watch him walk through that lab over and over.
Sure. I like the flip-flop, too, of what you don't expect. Jekyll's the good guy, Hyde's the bad guy, but in this case, Jekyll wants to kill Tom Cruise, and then once he becomes Hyde, he's like, let's get out of here.
Do you want to
I'm on your side. Let's do some stuff. Yeah,
you want to go
right.
do something?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
So you're on board for Universal Monsters and going forward then?
I am. I know there's some people saying, oh, now every movie studio is just trying to be like the MCU. And I'm like, I think that's fantastic to have people to compete with the MCU because they're getting lazy. Like, they're phoning it, they can phone it in on some of these sequels and nobody cares. I want them to have to up their game. But more importantly, like, comic book movies are very fun and some of them are great and I go see them. But, like, there needs to be more to big box office filmmaking than just comic books. And so now we have the monster universe
Yeah.
with King Kong, which I thought Skull Island was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, good.
And we have the dark universe, which is looking more and more like modern day Penny Dreadful.
Yeah.
And that's correct to me.
What would Melissa F. Olson's pen name be?
Oh boy, I don't know. Something
If she just
stupendous.
wrote, well, she did write like a detective type novel, but if she wanted to like take that all the way, you know, like I could see her being like Rocco Coltrane's sort of you know, noir novels, you know, about like
Sure.
no werewolves, just like real world like detective type thing, you know.
Sure.
Like, the fog was as hazy as pea soup as I knocked back a slug of the good stuff, right? And it's like this whole kind of like some kind of misogynistic, kind of masculine kind of thing.
Okay, I
But
could
then
see
it's
it.
sort of subversive as well.
I could see it.
But you got to write it as, because you want people to, you don't care if people get that you're doing a thing or not. You just want people to buy the book.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And so they're more likely to buy something from Rocco Coltrane than maybe they are from Melissa Olson.
I see.
Try that out.
Okay.
Let's try that out. Do you think, she's got no reason to lie.
No.
I don't think she would lie. But do you think that she is biased because of the subject matter of the Dark Universe? She's got an investment in seeing it succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because
At the end, look,
it's monsters.
sure, and you tune into this show, or maybe you don't. Welcome or goodbye. But you know, and I complain about things every week, but I want things to be good. I don't sit here like being happy that things are bad.
Well, right.
So yeah, when I see The Mummy, and I'm trying to find everything I can appreciate about it. Like, it was okay. The part with they were swimming or something, that's good. The part that they stole from American Werewolf, that was good.
Right.
Yeah, Nick's in it.
Right.
But at some point, you have to just kind of no, it was bad. It's not very good.
It was not great.
Or at least if you want, I mean, could you make a Mummy movie today? Should you? The answer after that is no. But I don't know if the answer is yes or not. Because
Yeah.
if you watch the original Mummy movie, the Mummy's on screen for like 8 minutes, and it's very much that sort of old-timey movie thing where it's like, it's a drawing room movie,
Right.
drawing room, fill in the blank, comedy, romance, horror. That's just a lot of people talking and like reading letters and stuff, and then, oh, that mummy's so scary.
Right.
That's the whole film. And you could make fill in the blank action / horror out of anything.
Yes.
You could reboot Rainbow Bright as like a, oh my god,
Oh
the
my
light
gosh.
is disgusting. Or you could do whatever you want. They do on YouTube with Photoshop and After Effects.
Sure.
But do you are we scared of mummies anymore at all?
I don't know. It's a good question.
The fact that, and I'm sure on some corner of the internet, but I'm not talking about self-published like Amazon books. The fact that nobody's made a sexy mummy franchise tells me that maybe we don't want mummies.
Can you make mummies sexy? Are mummies sexy?
Well, okay, we should be talking about Melissa, but she'll understand. Why mummies? Like, what is it that we like about a mummy? We like the fact that they are old and powerful.
They're scary.
They're like old wizards, right?
Yeah.
But you can do an old wizard. Matthew McConaughey is an old wizard in Dark Tower.
Sure.
Like, you can just do I'm a million years old, whatever. Here's some old evil magic. So we like them because they're gross, I guess?
Yeah.
But then we seem to, as soon as possible, make sure that they suck the life out of somebody so they can be like
Really
Arna
hot.
Vosloo or girl from
What is her name?
How Does It Feel?
Yes. French chick.
What's her name?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, shoot.
Sophia.
This is Butella.
Okay.
Whew.
We got there.
Yeah, we don't really traffic in how gross or old they are.
No.
So maybe that's why it doesn't stand out.
Yeah.
We need some old gross mummies again. Or if they do like a D&D movie, they're liches basically, right? They're like
Yes.
gross, ancient, gross, powerful magicians, and they can command armies of rats. Yeah, I don't know.
Undead.
Megatron's scarier, I think.
Yeah.
Just pound for pound.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to help you. Skirtsman. I want to help you. But somebody who doesn't need any help as far as her creative efforts go is Melissa Olson. And you want to talk about her most latest book.
Yes, I read Blood Gamble, which is the latest in her Scarlet Bernard series number 2.
Yeah.
In which Scarlet goes to Las Vegas to investigate a vampire show, and then she finds out as she gets there, also vampires are disappearing.
Okay. What's that? Sorry, what, vampire show?
Yes, like a Vegas-style show put on by vampires about vampires.
Okay, but does the audience know they're real vampires?
The audience doesn't know that they're real vampires.
Okay. So it's like a Zatanna situation.
Yeah.
Where she's doing like real magic. People are like, I don't know how she does it.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Or it's kind of like that crossed with a the Fright Night thing.
Yes.
Like the new Fright Night where he's David Tennant's character.
Yes.
Where he's I fight the dark arts, but he really fights the dark arts.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, continue.
So she starts unraveling more things, of course, as it goes on, and it's a really good book. I don't want to ruin it. There's another null in it. She's a null.
Yeah.
Which is they basically take away magic from witches, vampires, and werewolves. Like, so anybody who comes within her circle they're human again.
Right.
And she also is there, I should mention, as part of a bachelorette party.
That's okay.
So
I feel this is like the mountain coming to Muhammad. I think that this character always had to go to Vegas, don't you think?
Yeah,
at some point
she hates it.
Right, but it's perfect.
She hates it.
And then the whole bachelorette party thing.
She hates that
yeah,
too.
That's what you want to do. You want to throw your character into that situation.
These situations that they don't want to be in.
Has she ever? Have you read the extended oeuvre? Has she ever met Alex?
Lex? She. They have met briefly.
Crossover?
Yeah.
Do they fight when they meet for the first time?
No, but she's kind of afraid of her.
Oh, okay.
Scarlett's kind of afraid of her.
Oh,
Lex is
you're
scary.
non-magic and you can kick the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I see. Okay. And that actually just recently came out.
Which one?
Blood Gamble.
Yes, Blood Gamble. It just came out in July.
Sure. So this is our commercial for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Go check it out. It's available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Always great talking to her, so thanks to her and thanks to all of our interviewees. It was a great time, and we hope to talk to them all next year.
Word 'em up, y'all. Come on.
What do you know about Don Coscarelli?
Not a whole lot. I know that he directed The Beastmaster.
The Beastmaster.
Yes.
Although colloquially he's just Beastmaster.
Yes.
See, now you can understand that.
Yes.
You can understand the Joker.
Yes.
But you don't get the Batman.
It sounds weird.
It does not sound weird. Who's the clown that Batman fights?
The Joker.
Oh, not Joker?
No.
Okay, see?
It's never Joker.
Same thing. No, it's Joker less than it is Batman.
Gosh.
Okay, wrong.
It's
That's not what we're talking.
confusing.
Yeah, I don't think it really is. Yeah, okay. So he is a film producer and director and screenwriter as well, and he's one of these guys that he's become known for this thing and for another thing. Do you know the Phantasm series?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, that's...
Did I get my nerd card taken away from me?
No, that's fine. That'll be a future installment of this segment, this series, probably. I'm trying to think of how high those would be on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe high, maybe not. Doesn't matter. We'll save that for later. But he's produced the Beastmaster original film, none of the sequels or the TV show.
Okay.
He was in and he was out after that. But he's produced and written all the Phantasm films. He also did, interestingly enough, there's a lot. So like Roger Corman, for instance.
Yeah.
Still going. And he recently did this is Roger Corman's sequel to Death Race 2050.
Okay.
And it's horrible. It's dumb. It's his satire bite. It just is not there anymore.
Right.
And they've already created a new rebooted Death Race kind of trashy sort of series of films that are way better.
Sure.
And so I don't know. Coscarelli's like, he's still kind of hip though. He's still kind of with it because he made the Phantasms. Whether you like him or not, it's kind of like your own mileage. But he did the Bubba Hotep movie.
Okay.
Which was that movie where Elvis and JFK are in a old folks home and they're fighting like a mummy and Bruce Campbell's in it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, which is like tongue in cheek horror.
Yeah.
Which you wouldn't. I mean, Beastmaster is straight as an arrow.
Right.
So you wouldn't think that he would be down for that, but there you go. He also did John Dies at the End, the film adaptation of that.
Okay.
Adapted from the book.
Huh.
And that whole thing is like a sort of metatextual commentary on like genre fiction and that sort of thing. And guess whether John dies at the end or not?
I'm guessing
I
he
won't
does.
ruin it. And so that's way out of the wheelhouse of let's make a Steve Reeves, sword and sandal picture for under $10 million.
Right.
Yeah, which, I mean, it also didn't cost $10 million. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. This is his baby. It's The Beastmaster. It was originally adapted from a novel by Andre Norton called The Beastmaster.
Okay.
But he changed a lot. Like, the Beastmaster is actually, that character is like a Navajo or like an Indian like tracker with like these powers that exist in like a post-apocalyptic future.
Okay.
And Andre Norton was on board for like a lot of it, but once they ended up changing all this stuff, and Coscarelli has said that he was influenced by these Reeves movies, the old Hercules movies, and wanted to make that kind of film. That at one point, Andre Norton was just like, she took her name off it. She's like, yeah, well, I'm good.
Okay.
You guys are doing something else. So just, get down with your bad selves. He raised the money. He raised $9 million to make this movie. And, what's it about?
It's about the Beastmaster.
All right. So what's it really about? What's he like when he's at home?
Beastmaster, well, he takes his sandals off like 1 foot at a time,
Does
just
he
like
wear
everybody
sandals?
else.
He takes his pants. Oh wait, he doesn't wear pants. He takes his loincloth off one
leg
hip at a time. Right.
Yeah. His name is Dar. First of all,
which sounds like an awesome. Well, awesome. It sounds like an old timey Middle Ages name.
Yeah.
I
feel like there should be a folk song about it, like
like a Woody Guthrie song.
Dar.
Yeah. My elementary school principal's name was Dar.
Okay.
But I hadn't seen The Beastmaster. But if I had, oh boy, I would have loved that. Tell me more.
And he can talk to animals.
Can he walk with them?
He can.
I gotta stop interrupting you.
He can walk and talk with animals.
Okay.
And his village gets ransacked at the beginning of the film.
As they do.
As they do. And like burned to the ground by these people.
Mm-hmm.
And
the Juns.
The Juns are the ones who ransack it. And they kill everybody. And Dar's
shirts or no?
Shirts are optional.
Right. Well, I mean, this is, this could have easily, I think the later movies are like PG or PG-13, but they're like, get some boobs in there.
Oh,
you know what people want.
That's true.
They want a charming, golden-haired hero with some adorable animal friends, and we got to throw some boobs in there.
Yeah,
and
this we got to make it like...
But you have to remember that this was before PG-13 existed. Like, there was no division. So if you're going to have a genre picture, it's going to have those elements in it. There's no way you can't.
Right.
So just a lot of kids were just seeing a lot of boobs back then, up until the point that they invented the hyperviolence rating PG-13.
Right.
Fine. Good.
Right.
How far have you gotten in your synopsis? Not very far.
Not very far.
Keep going. Sorry.
Well, he's the only one who gets saved, and he basically gets saved because his dog drags him to safety.
No.
And the dog dies.
Yeah, for his trouble.
And then he decides he's going to go get revenge, basically. And there's this bird who's kind of looking out for him, and he's communicating with the bird. I don't know what kind of bird it is.
Just a hawk or falcon or something like that?
Like
a raptor,
that.
yeah. Immaterial.
Yes.
Well, you don't have to tell us how he gets all of his animals. He gets a panther
And 2 ferrets.
which is a tiger with just for men all over it, and 2 ferrets and a hawk.
Yeah. And he can talk to all of them
Right.
because he's the Beastmaster.
Right. Rip Torn's character, Mox, who's like this evil wizard that wants to rule the land.
Max, played by Rip Torn, finds out there's a prophecy that he's going to die at facing the son of King Zed.
Right.
So he creates this whole thing that he's going to get the witches to help him, and they like.
But first of all, he does this. He's doing these nefarious sort of things, and then Zed comes in to arrest him, and his bodyguards or his priests like hang themselves or something.
Yeah.
With they have these things that stick in the thing. Like, ugh.
Yeah.
So dramatic.
I know.
What?
It's super dramatic. So he
It's a witch lady.
He gets a witch lady to like transfer Zed's unborn son.
Beam the baby out of the queen.
Out of the queen into a cow.
Oh, clearly.
And because that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then birth the child that way.
Yes.
And then after his birth, the witch brands the infant with an R's mark.
Yeah, well, the mark of R. The R is like the kind of god in their world or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then she gets killed by a villager who ends up taking the infant, who he later names Dar, and raising him as his own.
Right, for a little while.
Yeah.
Then dead.
Then he's dead.
Yeah, they gets killed.
Um.
They figure out that he's got this ability because this bear shows up.
Yes.
There's
that
a funny
he can talk to animals.
There's a funny story from the set that the bear was like apparently the only bear like that you could get in Hollywood at the time.
Okay.
And so this is on like Mark Singer's like first day of filming. They have the bear comes out and it gets loose and like attacks the animal handler.
Oh my
and
gosh.
everybody runs away screaming. And they finally get the bear, they get one of those hoops that go over your neck or whatever. They get the bear back under control. The handler goes in the ambulance, and then they turn around to Mark and they go, "Okay, let's film the scene." He's like, "Guys, I'm not sure I'm a master. I'm a beast apprentice at this point, but yeah, that seems dangerous." But yeah, and then hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
It's a hero's journey of sorts.
It is.
But it's more like a hero's wandering.
It is a wandering.
Because, Dar survived, like you said, like his dog helps him survive this attack. Dog dies.
Yeah.
And then it's sort of like, I'm probably going to avenge their deaths or I'm going to go kill somebody or something.
Yes.
But he really just kind of wanders around for a while.
Yeah, he does.
And he's hanging out and some ferrets like steal his stuff and then there's quicksand.
Yes.
And it's like, no, you two. Well, since I'm the master of beasts, you guys work for me now. Exactly. And then he gets his falcon, which helps him out because then he meets some weird birdmen.
Bird people.
So we're talking about fantasy on the show today, and one thing I like about this is this whole movie to me seems like a imaginative but sort of poorly run D&D campaign.
Yes.
With just one player, one game master.
Yeah.
I've been on some of these. Like some of my early role-playing experiences are just, we've got a red box and we don't really know how to role-play. And so therefore, whatever TV show, the game master saw something cool on Knight Rider last night and now there's a talking car. And it's kind of like that. But it also has these elements, these sort of Robert Howard-esque elements of this is a rough world.
Yeah.
Like Dar finds these weird bird people and there's a guy like locked up who's going to get eaten by them and he doesn't really help the guy.
No, he doesn't.
the guy has to so these things hug you to death and then you just turn into gooey bones.
Yeah.
And we have to see how that works. And so that's going to be you, guy. Sorry. And Dar's not like, you bastards. He's just like, huh, all right.
Interesting.
I've got a bird. Are we cool? And they're like, oh, no, you like birds? We're cool. Take this. Take this talisman so that we can come in later
yeah.
at the end of the movie as a Deus Ex Hawkina. and fix everything. But we'll get there. We'll get there. And and he gets his panther, which is actually a tiger.
Yeah.
Apparently, Coscarelli really wanted it to be like a panther, and I don't know what was going on in Hollywood as far as where was Joan Embry, but as far as handling animals go, you couldn't really work with panthers. They're too skittish. They're not good performers. And so he's like,
So
we'll just dye a tiger.
Dyed a tiger?
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll just dye a tiger.
Oh, wow.
And there are times, apparently, if you look real close, like there are parts where the tiger drinks water and the dye washes off its mouth, so it's orange kind of around the mouth. Yeah, I didn't really notice that, but apparently that's in there.
I didn't notice that either.
So yeah, what I think is funny is that this came out in like August or September of 1982.
Okay.
Conan came out in spring of 1982.
Okay.
And you would go, so how many years after Conan did this come out? Same year. So if they were copying things, it's just because maybe I'm sure the script was going around maybe.
Sure.
But not though, because that's a whole nother, the story of how Conan came to be is a whole nother story. But they brought Oliver Stone on to write the script. So I don't think they wouldn't have been shopping it around. So I don't know. It has a lot of similarities to Conan, but I can't find any real way how they would have been able to rip off Conan.
Right.
You know what I mean? Except for the fact that clearly Coscarelli was probably a fan of Robert E. Howard books.
Sure.
And that sort of thing. But there's a lot of parallels there. You know, a young hero loses his parents. He has a destiny. He's got to fight an evil wizard.
Right.
One is the guy from CNN who turns into a snake. And this one is just the guy who will be in 30 Rock one day, or Larry Sanders one day, and 30 Rock, and can be stabbed and he's fine. He gets stabbed, but it's like, no, it's good. I'm still gonna just work out this thing. Yeah, and it's funny. Coscarelli's original choice for that role was Klaus Kinski.
Okay.
Who I like Rip Torn.
Yes.
Might have been better.
Might have been better?
Yeah. Well, we were talking off air about how what's Rip Torn trying to do except just be sinister? I don't feel like there's a real character there.
There's not a real character.
He's like,
necessarily.
Well, come on, eyebrows, we can do this.
It's hard for me to picture Rip Torn being anything else but Rip Torn.
Yeah, well, that is
for
true.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. But that's what we have.
Yes.
And so, yeah, of course, he's the evil guy. And I also liked how, I mean, we're kind of all over the map on this, but it's interesting. It's paced very weirdly.
Yeah.
Like we said before, normally you would have, okay, so we know that ultimately he's got to defeat the wizard at the end and save everybody.
Yes.
Which he does, but what are the steps to that goal?
Yeah.
And like we said, he just kind of wanders around. He gets his animal friends. He, meets the slave girl.
Kiri.
He meets Kiri, yeah.
Yeah.
And sort of saves her. And so now he knows that, like, he's kind of like he's aimless.
Yes.
Which is part of, like, the hero's journey, maybe. Like, he's need to find, like, a cause to fight for, which he does. But he's just kind of wandering around. And then he sees this hot girl, and he saves her from slavery, but not her friends. You guys are screwed.
Yeah, I know.
Or you can't fit on the boat. Sorry. And then he wants to get with her, clearly. So he's going to tag along. But he doesn't really know what he's kind of getting into. And then you've got, like, what I consider to be, I don't know, it's the last time I watched it, I might have fallen asleep a little bit, or at least been drowsy through the middle part. But it has this feeling of that because they attack, like, the fortress to save the people or the slaves or whatever, and then get Zed out. And they're just wandering around this thing. They're fighting the death guards or whatever.
They're taking a while.
And there's no clear, like, oh, we got to go point A to B to, like, okay, so you're going to get to this thing. We got to cut this thing. That opens the door. But now there's a new complication. They're just kind of wandering around. And then even at the end of that sequence, they get out, and the ferrets have been lost the entire time.
He's waiting for the ferrets.
Yeah, and then he meets up with them, and it's like, well, I could have used you guys. It's like, yeah, the movie could have, because this sequence just wanders around in this castle. There's some fun fighting and some cool sets and stuff, but it's just strange. But anyway,
it is strange.
What'd you think of Kiri?
I mean, I thought she was
Tanya Roberts.
I thought she did a good job for what they gave her to do, which was not a whole lot, really.
Yeah.
So, look hot in a fur bikini, you know.
Right. Better in A View to a Kill or here?
Oh, boy.
It's not the best
don't
Bond
know.
movie. Don't worry about it. She apparently got the View to a Kill role because of this. Also, she's Madge or whatever on that 70s show.
Oh, was she really?
Yeah. Or Midge or whatever her name is.
Okay.
So, yeah, I thought that she was capable.
Yeah.
There seems to be a thing where, unless you're doing Red Sonja, the woman can't really pick up a sword. And
No.
so she can be capable, but it's going to have to be at the limit of her femininity.
Yes.
Which is like, really? Come on.
I know, which is a little frustrating.
Yeah. Look at
say the least.
Speaking of Conan, look at Conan.
Yeah.
There's a kick-ass lady in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and she's like killing as many dudes as Conan is, so.
So that would have been a little refreshing if they had copied a little bit of that.
First choice for that role, Demi Moore.
I know.
Coscarelli really, really wanted Demi Moore for that role, who would have been 17, 18 tops at the time.
She would have been super young.
What was her breakout? About Last Night?
Something like that.
Maybe? Or yeah. So, yeah, this would have been like one of her first roles.
Well, oh well.
No real opinion on that.
No. Do you think she would have had short hair?
Oh, you can't be a princess and have short hair, can you?
I don't know.
Diana?
Probably not.
No, not in the medieval times. No.
Okay.
Or at medieval times, where they have Pepsi and Diet Pepsi. This movie basically made its limited budget back at the box office. It was sort of a mild hit. It didn't open very widely. Nowadays, it opens on 5,000 screens or whatever it is,
right?
And there's so much pressure for something to succeed. And this opened on like 100 or so screens, and then a few were added after it proved to be kind of popular. And so it eventually made like maybe 15 million at the box office.
Okay.
Enough to do some really cheap sequels that Coscarelli was not a part of. But it gained a new life on the burgeoning cable TV market. And so much so that, this is an old joke, but like it was on TBS so often that TBS was jokingly referred to as the Beastmaster station.
Oh my goodness.
Because you just turn on TBS
Tune
and
in.
Beastmaster's on. Yeah. Or it was on HBO a lot, too. I think it was a Dennis Miller joke where HBO stands for, hey, Beastmaster's on. That's my bad, Dennis Miller. So, yeah, that's kind of like a whole generation of film freaks sort of, grew up seeing seeing Mark Singer jump between rocks and look generally earnest. What do you think about him?
I think he did a good job. Dar is he is like a Herculean type figure.
Yeah.
He looks the part.
Yeah, he does, but he does in a lot of ways because he looks. I don't know, like his early background. He's been an actor forever. He was in V and he's in Dallas. He's actually kind of he's been on TV recently, like he was on Arrow.
Okay.
So he's still getting these sort of genre roles, I'm sure, based on, his experiences with Beastmaster and stuff like that. but he's perfect because looks like a gymnast, he looks like a guy who's going to wear a loincloth, but he's also got that real fresh sort of young quality to him.
Yeah, he's got a
even though
fresh
he wasn't
face.
as young as Dar is supposed to be. He's got that Luke Skywalker-ish kind of thing to him.
He does.
And he does a good job in the film. Cousin to Bryan Singer. Not a coincidence.
Really?
That name, yeah. Bryan Singer's cousin.
Interesting.
Why hasn't he been in an X-Men movie?
I don't know.
Come on.
Give me a part, cousin.
He could have been one of the usual suspects.
Yeah.
These guys don't talk, I guess. Now that they're both older, you can, maybe it's my imagination, you can kind of see it in the face a little bit.
Okay.
I can see that. Yeah, okay, those guys are related.
Okay.
I could see that. Yeah, so, boy, are we lost? Like Dar
I feel
in
like
the
we're
wilderness?
kind of lost.
Like, what do we want to say about this film? How do you feel that this encapsulates, for good or bad, the fantasy, and as we have been talking about, sort of the role-playing kind of experience.
I think this perfectly encapsulates the fantasy experience.
Yeah.
This film is perfectly fantastical, and it goes on the hero's journey for sure. And there's a creepy eye ring, so, you know.
Yeah, that was a cool effect.
Yeah.
Really easy to do, I'm sure, but it works.
It does work.
Yeah, I like that. I like the I like his beast vision, you know, when he can like see through their eyes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the beasts are important, but
Yes.
I feel like if they made this today, they would definitely play up the beast angle because they're there for him. They help him out, and he controls them, or his friends, or whatever.
Right.
But I don't feel like he ever really exploits it in any like important way.
No, he doesn't.
Or at least not the power part, because he can see through their eyes and that cool stuff. But he doesn't really ever use that. Like, you know, he's like, "Get up there, Kodo! Chew through the rope so the gate will open." Like
Right.
that's a good, you know, animal thing to do. And then the animal bites the guy's dick or whatever, and that helps out too.
Right.
But he's never really like, you know, controlling them, or they're just kind of his friends.
Right.
I'm not sure what kind of criticism this is. In this day of superhero powers, he would be like warging into them, you know, Game of Thrones style, and doing all this
I
weird
see
stuff
what you're
if it was
saying.
happening today. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're
And cut the hawk guys at
just
the
his
end.
friends. Cut the hawk guys.
We don't need that.
At the end.
So this we were talking about structure before, and my criticism, even though it's awesome, of the film is like they take out Rip Torn and the movie keeps going for a while.
It does.
You're like, well, so Kodo rode that guy into the fire. Like, is this done? Is this over? No, we're gonna.
No.
We still have the Mongol invading army.
Yes.
And then there's this awesome scene, like the last 10 minutes of the movie, where many stuntmen must have been burned, 2nd and 3rd degree burns.
I would think so.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's this awesome scene where it's a siege situation. They've got to protect the castle, and the enemy guys with the horns and the skull masks are coming.
Yes.
And they've got this like moat,
June.
like a river of pitch type thing.
Yes.
That they light on fire, and then all these guys are like in the fire, but then they're like riding through the fire, and so Dar's got to go out there, and eventually John Amos, everybody's out there,
Yeah.
and they're fighting these guys, and it's a lot of that. It isn't like The Matrix. There's a lot of like that clumsy. Oh no, my thing is stuck. Oh, I move at the right time, and then the sword goes into the wood instead of like my head. But like that's what we're here for. Like this is cheesy
Right.
B movie like action, and
Right.
it's just like he's all sweaty and he's fighting these guys. And if they had just had some kind of like, if he had just fought hard enough, the tiger disappears,
Yes.
and it would have been impossible to get the tiger to work around fire at night.
Yeah,
Probably.
that's true.
But if the tiger had come in for the save at the last minute and killed the guy with the helmet or the axe or whatever,
Right.
but then we have to bring this whole, remember the bird guys? Well, here they are.
Here they are. They came to
Some-
save the day.
He's Beast and Monster Master.
Yes.
Because these weird, like, Monster Manual 3, like, bottom of the barrel D&D monsters show up to help out.
Yeah.
They've
They're
got
friendly
15 hit
monsters.
dice. Yeah, you want them on your side.
Yeah. They will lend you a cup of sugar.
But they have an alignment, a cup of sugar.
Yeah.
Right. But they're going to want it back.
Yeah.
They want that cup back.
Yeah.
It's a tin cup that their mom used to use. Would you recommend this film?
I would absolutely 100% recommend this film.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to. Turn on TBS.
It's so much fun.
Yeah. I would recommend this film, but with the caveat that see it some theater. You've got a cool theater near you. You must, wherever you are.
Yeah.
That will show this at midnight at some point. Go see it then.
It's a great midnight film.
If you sit down on an afternoon, like a Sunday afternoon, and watch this on TV, you might like it, but you're also probably doing the lawn, or I don't know how you mow the lawn and watch the movie. But you got chores to do or something, or your aunt calls or something, and you're probably going to just step away and then come back and miss some stuff. But if you make a date out of this, get some popcorn and go to like a midnight showing of this, yeah, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, all movies are a business, but I feel the love in this.
Yeah.
Because we talked before about how it's straight as an arrow, and I think that's because they didn't have a lot of money, and they probably had to grease a lot of palms to get the money that they did.
Uh-huh.
But they really wanted to make a movie that was cool and
Yeah.
would entertain you. Unlike the sequels. I mean, Mark Singer's back, but they're just, almost direct to video,
Right.
if not direct to video, like Beastmaster 2, the cash in, that sort of thing. And but yeah, it's just like you feel the enthusiasm. They put all that Lady Clairol on a tiger for a reason,
Right.
because they wanted to show you something cool and tell a fun adventure story. So
I'm just imagining them dyeing the tiger, and it's just,
yeah, I know. Is it just a kiddie pool?
I don't know.
It's just a kiddie pool filled with
It must be.
Auburn waves of grain or whatever. And
Yeah.
then, yeah. And it's uncomfortable because the main character really wants to do his cousin, but
It
that's
is
fine.
uncomfortable.
It's fine. There's a deleted scene where they do it.
Oh, really?
And I think they probably took it out because they're like, what?
Really?
It's fine.
We can imply.
You do a Luke
without-
and Leia thing where it's like, oh, you're pretty good. Oh, okay. Yeah, I respect you. I respect the hell out of you. But there's no way you can take that back. So, yeah. And also, he's, he gets to the end and he's a hero. And it's not like he just gets the throne and he's the Kiswat Sadarok or whatever and we just leave the movie. Like, at the end, he's like,
continues wandering.
I'm really good at, like, beastmastering and I'm good at, like, killing wizards. And so I don't think I should be the king. Like, I've met this kid. He's a good
Right.
kid. He's got a great teacher in good John from Good Times.
Yes.
And so you go down with your bad self there. I got more adventuring to do.
That's right.
I'm sure I'll have many exciting direct-to-video adventures. And indeed, he does. So, it's Craft Disservices.
Yep.
I think we should do an announcement. I want to announce that we are spinning Craft Disservices off
Yes.
into its own show called Craft Disservices, or long form, the Craft Disservices podcast. And it is going to continue the tradition of what we do here on the segment, which is to say that we look at films that are below 50% on Rotten Tomatoes
Yep.
or on Metacritic, and talk about their merits. It is the movies that critics have rejected but audience embrace,
Yes.
and why that is. And that's going to continue on this new show, which I'll be hosting with a sort of rotating list of guest hosts, a roster of unemployable reprobates who are all film fans and want to talk about this stuff, which means that this will probably be one of the last regular segments of Craft Disservices on this show.
Right.
We will occasionally return to that. But we've watched a lot of bad movies, and
We
I think
have.
we have earned the right to watch some good movies.
I think so too.
And so, like I said, we will definitely return. I mean, if we're going to continue to cover things like The Dark Tower or Valerian,
Yeah.
that's a disservice in itself. We don't need to talk about any more bad movies. You're accepted, Beastmaster. We need to talk about some good movies.
Yes.
And so to sort of commemorate that and to send off, at least for now, into the wilderness with some brand new baby ferrets, the Craft Disservices segment, 2 weeks from now, on our last regular Craft Disservices segment, we're going to cover one of my favorite films. And the reason I saved it for the end is that it's a tweener.
Uh-oh.
It is exactly 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay.
It is Lerner and Lowe's Camelot.
Okay.
You've never seen Camelot.
I don't think I have.
You're in for a treat. You are. It's going to blow you away.
Okay.
It stars Richard Harris as King Arthur. It is the movie adaptation, basically, of the stage musical Lerner and Lowe's Camelot. It's
Okay.
fantastic. I have no idea why it's 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, but as a true tweener, we're going to be able to really get our hands right up into the elbow. We're going to get in there, and we're going to talk about this amazing thing, our first musical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited. How excited are you without knowing anything?
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, well, that's good enough.
Yeah.
So that'll be at our last regular Craft Disservices, looking at Lerner and Lowe's Camelot in 2 weeks on Craft Disservices. Well, that's our show for this week. Thanks for stopping by to our well-appointed hovel. I always imagined if I was a a peasant, which is all I'd ever be in a fantasy world. We're all NPCs, really, aren't we?
Yeah.
There are only a few like PCs in our world. Vin Diesel, that guy's a PC no matter what. Angela Lansbury, I'm just going to say. Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I'm putting together a real weird Jumanji team here.
You are.
Who's the comedic fourth?
Jeez, Maria
Kevin
Bamford.
Hart. Or Maria. Oh, that's a good one. She'll be the villain.
There you go.
Yeah, she'll be the evil wizard that they have to take down. But I think Kevin Hart's just contractually obligated to be in all these things. But thanks for stopping by. I want to remind you that next week we'll be doing our comic book club segment, which is not going anywhere in the near future. And we are talking about the Marvel Knights in anticipation of the release of the Defenders miniseries on Netflix, which is coming up. We're going to read The Roots of the Defenders, which is the Marvel Knights series from 2012. We're reading the first 5 issues. Mm-hmm. I've read it a long time ago, but I've kind of been looking over it recently, and it's Daredevil, it's the Punisher, it's Shang-Chi, it's Kung Fu Guy, Dagger from Cloak and Dagger is in it, Black Widow's in it, so very different than what you're seeing on the screen for rights and licensing reasons, but still keeping that tone of street-level heroes, dealing with not world, Thanos or Annihilus or whatever, but more sort of street level mystery, intrigue, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And so that's what we'll be talking about. And join us for that. Those issues are available anywhere. Comixology, you can find them. Go check them out. In the meantime, you can check us out on social media, on Facebook and Twitter. If you go to either one of those and search for Just Enough Trope, you can find our show page. Also, go to iTunes and find our show page there at Just Enough Trope. And while you're there, subscribe to the show because it is the best way to get the show. It's like looking through our eyes and seeing through the eyes of a panther or an eye ring. They kind of double down on that element.
They kind of
do. A
do.
little bit. It's. I'm not saying it's confusing, but it would have sent that back to the writer if this is a real Hollywood production. And you can also leave us a review. We'd appreciate knowing how you think that we're doing, and we love hearing from the fans. And also give us a rating. Really, bargain basement, that's the most important thing. We need a high rating from you. When you leave us a high rating, iTunes knows we're doing a good job. We move up in the ranks, and we're able to bring more things to you and to people like you, and everybody gets exactly what they want. So give us 5 gooey Hawkmen hybrid people. Those are the guys that you want to come to the party, but at the right time.
Yes.
You don't want them there early.
No.
They're going to scare everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
You don't want them there late because they're hungry and they'll eat all your guests. So if they slide right in at the 9:30 kind of point, everybody's still sober to appreciate the fact that you've got gooey Hawkman hybrids.
Yes.
You march them around, do a little lap. Every room of the house, meet everybody. Then you give them the slaves that you have captured. Well, they don't eat Doritos. You feed them, get rid of the bones, and then, thanks, guys. See you later. They take off. That's how you do a party. It seems like a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
So I guess just give us 5 stars instead. We'd appreciate it. Join us next time on the show where we'll have more interviews from our CONvergence guests. And also, of course, we're talking about Marvel Knights for Comic Book Club. And that's it. I think we are ready to sign off. I'm your host, Caliban.
I'm your co-host, Mikan Hana.
Keep the geek fires burning.